Today we're going to be installing the Billet Transmission Mount Insert along with the Street Density Transmission Mount from 034 Motorsport in my 2018 Audi S4. Before we get started, you want to make sure that your transmission is supported, so use the transmission jack and a 2x4 and jack up right behind the transmission support bracket. You then are going to want to take an M10 triple square socket and remove the two bolts that are holding in the OEM transmission mount insert. Once the stock insert is removed, you're going to want to use the same socket to loosen and remove the 4 bolts holding in both of the exhaust hangers on both sides of the transmission mount bracket. Once the exhaust hangers are fully removed, we're going to want to switch over to an M12 triple square socket and loosen up the transmission support bracket from the vehicle. This is done by loosening up the 4 bolts on each corner of the bracket. Once we have the bracket loosened up from the vehicle, we're then going to want to switch over to a 13mm socket and loosen the 4 bolts that hold the transmission mount to the bracket. You are then going to want to fully remove these 4 nuts, and in this case I just used an impact to quickly remove them from the bracket itself. Once those 4 nuts are removed, I switched back to the M12 triple square socket and fully disconnected the bolts from the vehicle so that way the transmission mount is fully separated. Once the bracket is fully disconnected, you're going to have to wiggle it out. This is kind of a pain to do, but after a couple minutes, I was able to successfully get this past both of the exhaust pipes. That is by far the hardest part of this whole installation, so if you can get past that, you're in the clear. Once the transmission support bracket is fully removed from the vehicle, it will expose the transmission mount bracket. This is removed by using 4 M12 triple square bolts, and then it will separate from the transmission. Once you remove this from the vehicle, you're going to want to set it on the ground and turn it over, and you'll find a 13mm nut. You're going to use an impact to remove this, and this will separate the transmission mount from the bracket. So now we're going to grab our 034 mount and put it in the bracket and then flip it over and tighten down the 13mm nut that's on the back. I use an impact in this case, but the actual torque is 20 Newton meters or 15 foot-pounds for those who are interested. So we're going to want to reinstall the 4 M12 triple square bolt back in the vehicle. As you can see, I'm just quickly threading these in before I use an actual torque wrench just to speed up things a little bit. We're then going to want to torque each of these down in a crosshatch pattern to 40 Newton meters or 30 foot-pounds. Once we have those torqued, we can gently set our transmission mount back in. We're now going to put our transmission support bracket back in place. You have to get it around both of the exhaust hangers, as you can see here. The most difficult part was lining up the 4 studs for the 13mm bolts that we removed earlier, so once you get that, we're pretty much good to go. You're then going to want to install and torque the 4 M12 triple square bolts that hold up this support bracket, and these are torqued to 70 Newton meters or 52 foot-pounds. You're then going to want to put on your exhaust hangers, and these are M10 triple square and are torqued to 20 Newton meters or 15 foot-pounds. We then are going to want to reinstall the 4 13mm nuts that we removed earlier, and these are torqued to 20 Newton meters or 15 foot-pounds. Now it's time to install the upgraded 034 Billet Transmission Mount Insert. This improves shifting performance and allows for crisper, smoother shifts as it fills in the voids that the stock mount does not. To hold this in place, you're going to want to install 2 brand new M10 triple square bolts and torque them down to 20 Newton meters or 15 foot-pounds. Once your work is done, you can remove your transmission jack and admire the installation that you just completed. I will leave a link to both these products along with any tools used in this video below. This is overall a really straightforward upgrade that anyone who has a basic knowledge of working on their Audi will be able to do effortlessly.